You've probably heard this before, that the first laws in human history were created to bring justice, that they were meant to protect people, to create fairness, to build civilization. But what if that's not true? What if the very first written laws in history were never about justice at all? What if they were designed for something else entirely, something much more powerful? To understand this, we need to go back nearly 4,000 years, to ancient Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, where one man ruled with absolute authority. His name was Hammurabi. He was the king of Babylon, a powerful ruler who expanded his empire through war, strategy, and control. But Hammurabi didn't just want land, he wanted something far more important. He wanted order, because ruling an empire wasn't easy. Babylon was growing fast. Different cities, different cultures, different people with different customs. And with that growth came chaos, disputes, crime, unrest, and the biggest problem, people didn't all follow the same rules. So Hammurabi did something revolutionary. He created one unified set of laws, carved into stone for everyone to see. This became known as the Code of Hammurabi, nearly 300 laws, covering everything from theft to marriage to trade to punishment. At first glance, it looks like a step toward justice. Clear rules, defined consequences, a system that applies to all. But if you look closer, a different story begins to emerge, because these laws were not equal, not even close. The punishment you received depended entirely on who you were. If a wealthy man harmed another wealthy man, the punishment might be severe. But if that same wealthy man harmed a poor person, the consequences were often lighter. And if a poor person dared to harm someone of higher status, the punishment could be brutal. In some cases, deadly. Justice wasn't blind, it was carefully calculated. The famous idea of an eye for an eye sounds fair, but it only applied between equals. Equality didn't exist. Hierarchy did. So if this wasn't about fairness, then what was it about? Control. Hammurabi understood something fundamental about human nature. People are easier to rule when they believe the system is fair, by writing laws in stone, literally carving them into massive pillars. He created the illusion of order and justice. People could see the rules, they could read them, they could believe in them, but more importantly, they could fear them, because the punishments were harsh, extremely harsh. Stealing could cost you your hand, false accusations could lead to death, even small offenses could result in severe consequences. This wasn't just law, this was psychological control, a message from the king to his people. Step out of line, and you will pay for it. But there's something even more interesting. Hammurabi didn't present these laws as his own ideas. No, he claimed they came from the gods, on the stone where the laws were carved. There's an image of Hammurabi standing before a god, receiving the laws as a divine gift. This was no accident, because if laws come from a king, people might question them, but if laws come from the gods, they become unquestionable. Now, disobedience isn't just a crime, it's a sin, and that changes everything. This is where law becomes power, not just physical power, but psychological power. Hammurabi didn't just control actions, he controlled belief. And that's far more effective. Because when people believe the system is right, they enforce it on themselves. No army needed, no constant force required, just fear and belief. And that's what made the Code of Hammurabi so powerful. It wasn't the first attempt at laws, but it was one of the first times laws were used this strategically, not just to solve problems, but to maintain authority, to stabilize an empire, to keep people in line. And if you think about it, this idea never really disappeared. Even today, laws shape behavior. They define what's right and wrong, they create order, but they also reflect power. Who makes the laws? Who benefits from them? Who suffers under them? These questions are just as relevant now as they were in ancient Babylon, because the truth is, laws have always been more than just rules. They are tools. Tools of structure, tools of control, tools of power. Hammurabi understood this thousands of years ago, and that's why his code wasn't just a legal system. It was a strategy, a way to turn chaos into control, not by making everyone equal, but by making everyone obedient. So the next time you hear about the first laws bringing justice, remember this: they didn't create fairness, they created order. And sometimes those are two very different things.